If you've ever had a DOT violation and you're wondering, should I wait to be clean to start the process? I want to clear that up today because a lot of times people have questions about this, and the answer is no, you should not wait. And I'll explain that to you in a moment. If we haven't met, my name's Cindy Athey and I'm a DOT qualified SAP. So I help safety sensitive employees like CDL drivers get through the SAP process and be ready to return to duty. And so a lot of drivers think like, let me just get myself together first, let me get clean, and then I'll start the process. And I understand why people think that, but you don't have to be clean to start the SAP process. And actually, here's what I recommend, because in reality, cannabis can stay in your system way longer than 30 days. But during those 30 days, while we're waiting for that to get out of your system, you can start the process so that when you can test negative, then you're just continuing to move through so that you're not stuck, for months off work. So essentially, you don't have to show up perfectly to the SAP assessment, and you don't have to have everything figured out, because I know it's a confusing process. You just have to start the process, so at least you're on the way to getting back to duty as soon as you can. So the SAP process isn't something you need to qualify for, right? Or you don't need to be clean at the time, because like cannabis sticks around in your system a lot longer sometimes than 30 days. So you don't want to just wait and then start, right? That delays the whole return to duty. But what you do want to do is you want to find a DOT qualified SAP like me. Like you just make sure you ask them if they're qualified, and then they'll do a SAP assessment, right? And that's where they get information about how this occurred, your background, and then they come up with a recommendation, which DOT says the minimum is substance abuse education up through a higher level of care, if the person needs that. And that could mean therapy, it could mean intensive outpatient, it could mean residential treatment like rehab or detox. It really depends on the situation and what's appropriate level of care for that person. But anyways, you meet with them, they come up with a recommendation, you go complete the recommendation, and then you meet back up with the SAP for a follow-up assessment, which basically determines if, yes, you are eligible for return to duty testing. So essentially, initially, you don't have to show up perfectly, that's fine. And you don't have to have everything figured out. You just have to start the process so you don't delay yourself, by months waiting to get back to work. I mean, because I see that all the time. Sometimes like CDL drivers will wait weeks, months, whatever. They think they're doing the right thing, but what's really happening is they're just pushing off that return to duty timeline further and further out, because none of the official steps on that clearinghouse dashboard for CDL drivers, for instance, starts until you connect with a DOT qualified SAP and begin the process. So all that time you're waiting around, it's not moving you forward. It's just kind of like paused. And I want to say this because I know some of you are probably feeling it. You're allowed to start where you're at. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have it all cleaned up before you talk to someone. Like, my role as a SAP isn't to judge you. It's to help guide you through this process and get you back to work in a healthy and safe manner. And if you find this video helpful, please feel free to check out other videos that I've broken down the SAP process, and subscribe to the channel. I try to make videos fairly regularly to explain the process and answer questions that I get. So if you're in this situation right now, this is what I would recommend to you. Start the process. Find a good DOT qualified SAP. It can be remote like this or in person. Get your evaluation scheduled. But before you do that, make sure you talk to that SAP and make sure they know exactly how this process works. Ask good questions like, how timely are they to you? If you call them or text them and have a question, how quick will they get back to you? Will they accept text messages? Some providers don't, How can you get a hold of them later? Because you have to pick a good SAP, because your SAP will follow you through way after step 4 is checked off in the clearinghouse. So 5 and 6 is the return to duty test, and follow-up testing is 6. And honestly, I have drivers that call me from years past because they've switched employers, and your SAP has to forward the paperwork on to the new employer. And so part of that SAP fee you're paying is for case management like that, like making sure the new employer knows what they're doing with follow-up testing. Do they know they need to update the clearinghouse? Because a lot of employers don't. So you want to find a good SAP that will be there, be responsive to you, and actually make sure this is done correctly, because it needs to be essentially with regards to the clearinghouse for your CDL, but other safety sensitive positions as well. You want it done correctly. I've seen it over and over again that drivers who start earlier tend to move through the process smoother because they're not losing time. If you're not sure where you're at or what your next step should be, that's okay to ask. That's what the process is there for. And if you need help figuring it out, I do offer quick SAP calls that you can schedule, but there's also free and paid resources over on my link tree, which is linked down below in the description box, that can help you if you're not ready to move forward with a SAP just yet. And I hope this helps, and I will see you in the next one.